Good day, everybody. Welcome. This is the Two-Way Tonight program. I'm Mark Halperin, your host for the next 60 minutes of pure excitement with a lot of news, a lot of it connected to the shutdown, the government shutdown that shows no sign of ending, but could end. And we'll talk about that. The main thing you need to know is not the news, although we'll get to the news. The main thing you need to know is we have two of the finest reporters in America as our guests tonight. I can't say you can't find good reporters somewhere else, but we have the two best. So shut down your other screens because Rachel Bade and Mark Caputo will be here in a moment to talk through the day's news, particularly as it pertains to the shutdown. But there's more than just the shutdown because President Trump has told Congress we're at war with the cartels. And that's, excuse me, that's interesting stuff. We'll talk about that. There's a little bit of the aftermath of the horrible attack on Yom Kippur in Manchester, England, and a little bit on the economy, a little bit on Gaza. But our big focus is going to be on the shutdown and where it's headed and the gamesmanship on both sides. If you want to get in on the conversation on pretty much anything, the Red Sox Yankees don't start till 8, so we probably won't talk much about that. Raise your hand if you're here on the Two-Way platform. We'd love to have you be part of the conversation. As always, you'll come in, you'll tell us where you are, what's on your mind. Eager to have both returning celebrity participants as well as brand new folks. We love the first time, long time category, particular favorite of mine. So raise your hand if you want to be on the conversation. As always, we try to be a little bit different than some of the other places you'll find besides the two-way conversation that we have where you're part of the program. We welcome you to participate with peace, love, and understanding, pulsating from every pore, right from your heart. Presumption of grace to all, and say it with me now: no smack in the chat. Someday there will be no smack in the chat. I'm quite confident that eventually, over time, those of you who delight in putting smack in the chat, I think because you're angry at someone from your childhood and to make me angry, I think someday you'll get over that and you will no longer put smack in the chat. But although I don't read the chat, I do glance at it, and my colleagues do data analysis on it, and it's 72% smack some days, much higher percentage than I would like. So just maybe those of you who come here regularly to put smack in the chat, maybe today just take a break, just watch the show. And if there's something you don't like, instead of saying never have that person on again, or Mark, you love Trump, or Mark, you hate Trump, keep it to yourself just for a day. Let's see if we can get the smack in the chat down to 12% just for this episode. Thank you for attention to this matter. In a moment, Mark Caputo and Rachel Bade will be here. And we'll talk about everything. But first, a word from one of our sponsors tonight, our new sponsor, Fast Growing Trees. I've told you about the delight, like a kid on Christmas showed up at my front door, giant 7-foot box. There's a tree inside. And the folks at Fast Growing Trees don't just mail you random trees, and they don't ask you to figure out on your own what kind of tree or trees you should get. They work with you. They ask you where you live and what kind of indoor, outdoor, what kind of tree you're in the market for. And then it just shows up and it's ready to go. For an indoor tree, ready to go, nicely potted, just put it in your house. Make sure you pay attention to how high your ceilings are and how high the folks at Fast Growing Trees tell you it's going to grow, because the fast growing part of fast growing trees ain't no joke. They grow fast. And if you want a discount, you get one, 15% discount using the promo code Two-Way. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com, all one word, fastgrowingtrees.com, and get yourself a tree or two or three. And tell them Mark sent you. They'll have no idea what that means, but nonetheless, tell them Mark sent you. All right, let's bring in our guests tonight. Couldn't be more excited. I may just sit back and let Rachel and Mark run the show because I'm a bit winded, and I'll tell you why later. Here is Rachel Bade and Mark Caputo, celebrity reporters. There's some like the Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts of their generation. Thank you both for being here. Rachel,
by the way, I was just like, no
yeah.
idiot is like, I'm gonna get grief for wearing an aqua shirt. And
No,
I'm like,
we're twinsies.
What's
yeah,
wrong
like,
with Aqua?
If I was
I don't know.
if I was the
like,
kind of person who make the joke about the memo,
yeah, exactly.
Rachel, I'll give you a tip, Rachel, if you want to get along with me. If we're ever on an elevator and it stops at more than 2 floors, don't say, "Oh my God, it's the local." I'm done. I'm done with that joke. Never make that joke, just so you know. Anyway, Mark, Rachel has been on the last couple of days because she's nice enough to share her shutdown expertise with us, and I
She
now
does more
spend
than
a
I do.
yeah,
Just
I now okay. Well, we'll let Rachel lead. I now spend a fair part of my day answering texts and emails and phone calls from people saying, "Oh my God, Rachel Bade, revelation, so good, amazing."
God, you're
So
increasing the pressure on me. Now I'm just gonna like,
whatever.
humble
Hey,
everything.
hey, Sam, is it possible to dip into MSNBC right now? If it
Sure,
is,
one
just
second.
throw it up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a rarity. It only happens 20 or 30 times a day. Hakeem Jeffries is on cable news. Let's see what he's
on
saying.
MSNBC. Who'd have thought?
Exactly.
Yeah.
To continue funding, we've also indicated that we can't simply proceed as if this is business as usual. If we reach a bipartisan agreement, then we've got to make sure there are enforceability mechanisms to ensure that the agreement that was reached is actually kept and that the Trump administration follows the law.
There's going to be a lot of pain here, not just in the area of healthcare. We are hearing that the administration is preparing for mass permanent firings. Just want to remind everyone that Project 2025, the GOP blueprint for the second Trump presidency, was unabashed in its desire to remake the federal government, including proposing massive cuts to the federal workforce. An architect of Project 2025, Russ Vought, is now the head of the White House Office of Management and Budget, and that's the group that's driving these planned firings. I'm going to play a tape of Speaker
All right,
Johnson
we can leave out of
responding
this.
to questions
We can leave out of
about
this. This is
Vought's.
frankly, do you guys know who that is? Who's that? It's MSNBC anchor. Do you guys know who that is?
I didn't know who
No.
I
that
don't know who
was.
that is,
Is it a trick
do
question?
not.
Or?
but I think it's like a rerun. Okay, let's just do level setting. Rachel Bade, where are we on the shutdown? No talks today, no votes today.
Yeah.
Talk that there might be Schumer Thune
There's talks about
conversation.
talks. There's
Talks
talks
about
about
talks, right?
talks.
Like plans about plans. Where are we, and where are we likely headed?
Yeah, a couple thoughts on this. One, it feels like some Democrats are starting to squirm a little bit. There was a bipartisan huddle on the Senate floor yesterday, actually, where Senate Democrats were sort of broaching Republicans to see if they would do a shorter extension of government funding in return for some sort of promise to negotiate on these expiring ACA healthcare tax credits. Since then, though, John Thune has clamped down on that. The majority leader in the Senate maintaining this pressure that we don't have to give you anything. You're just going to open the government because that's what you do. You don't take the government hostage and demand policy extractions. So I just saw I can't remember who was tweeting about it on Twitter, but there was also suggestion that this expected discussion between Thune and Chuck Schumer tomorrow might not even happen because Thune thinks Schumer is dug in and that it's going to be potentially the rank and file who end up peeling off from him, moderate Democrats in particular, who could break from their leadership and vote to reopen the government. But yeah, things are obviously pretty frosty. A personal anecdote here. I also saw the sensitivity of all of this with Democrats in the past 24 hours when I tweeted something that I thought was very not controversial at all. I just tweeted that,
Welcome to Twitter.
Yes.
like it was shocking, guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
never tweet.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you basically pulled a Caputo. You went back. You went back on Twitter after seeing the
And
absurd
you said
reaction.
something. You said something true.
Yeah,
that
and you
got
said,
attacked by the
and you
very
said
dishonest
exactly,
near attendant.
and you said in Caputo style, "What up with you people? I just tweeted something true. Thank you for thanking me."
Why is
Sorry.
everybody so
Yeah.
fucking stupid?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it was so for those who don't
Yeah.
follow me on Twitter, I had seen a former colleague at Politico was quoting Hakeem Jeffries saying the Republican shutdown, and I just said something like, facts matter here. It's a Democratic shutdown. Republicans didn't shut down the government. 2 million engagements, most of them negative, saying really nasty things about me that I don't like.
You should have gone on Blue Sky.
But again,
Yeah.
shows the sensitivity. They're so
Yeah.
afraid of owning this, and they've been demanding it for 6 months now. So
Yeah.
that's just the
Yeah.
opening thought.
It occurs to me you're both former politicos, so we could turn that into a whole episode at some point.
Oh, that'll get a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
I'll get in trouble.
So, Mark, I want to hear your general point of view, but I want to tee you up this way.
Mhm.
And this is not a pro-Trump statement. It's just a factual statement.
Oh.
Donald Trump tweeted today about his OMB director, Russ Vought, and he said of the famous Project 2025. And Kamala Harris on down, all these Democrats are like, aha, we got you. you're admitting you like Project 2025, and it's just this is Lucy in the football. Like no one is influenced by that who didn't already hate Donald Trump. They're swaying no one. And again, it's once again he's just living free in their head, touting Project 2025. Guess what? He won the election. Anyway, Mark, I'd love for you to comment on vote 2025 and where you think we are in
I'm,
general. Take it over. Take it
I'm
off.
glad you asked because this has bothered me since the election, which was that Project 2025, by and large, was a collection of long-standing Republican and Donald Trump policies that they always wanted to put in place.
Right.
Some of the policies, though, were things that Trump didn't want to deal with and that he didn't like, on abortion, on the abortion pill, and things like that. So that was the stuff that Trump was like, hey, ixnay on the, Project 25A, or however you say it in Pig Latin.
Yeah.
And the reality is politics ultimately in our country and generally speaking are binary. It's Republican and it's Democrat. It's black and it's white. You're either for everything in Project 2025 or you're not. And so the common conversation here was Donald Trump is distancing himself from everything in Project 2025. And he wasn't, because a lot of stuff in there is stuff he always wanted to do. So here is Donald Trump trolling and having fun. I don't fault the Democrats for coming out and saying, aha, because as we learned from our Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, a good tactic is one your people enjoy. And what people enjoy a lot is being right. And they're like, yeah, see, I told you so. Now, I'll have a different opinion if Donald Trump or his administration comes out and bans the abortion pill the day after pill, or mifepristone, right? Now, if that happens, then yeah, Trump is going back on that. But this stuff is firmly within the ambit of what Republicans have wanted to do for a while. You're telling me that this is a new thing? That Donald Trump wants to lay off federal workers and cut the budget? I can't remember who posted it, but there was an analysis done last year about the campaign contributions from federal government workers and where they go. And shock of shocks, they don't go to Republicans, they go almost exclusively to Democrats, federal ones do, which is increasing, and I'm not saying they deserve it, but certainly increases the relish by which Republicans cut the budget and try to lay off federal workers. That having been said, I don't know where this goes, but I do know that of the things that I just sort of hate seeing on social media and I don't like writing about is this dumb conversation about 2025. But then again, 2025. But then again, politics is fueled by these dumb conversations, so I should probably be a little more accustomed to it.
Yeah,
Rachel?
I was just going to jump in. You talking about all these cuts that the president is suggesting they're going to make. Russ Vought is, talking about which quote Democratic agencies he's going to close, or maybe that was Trump who said that Democratic agencies were going to close in the next few days. Look, Democrats knew this was coming, and they did it anyway. This is the exact reason Chuck Schumer gave for keeping the government open in March. This is why he said we cannot shut the government down.
Right.
And I wrote a column like a month ago saying, look, like the same problems Schumer articulated with this strategy last time, they still apply.
Yeah.
And so like anybody who's shocked by this, it's like, open your eyes. Like they knew that this was a possibility. I do wonder though, if there's a risk that the president overplays their hand here. We are starting to hear some Republicans on the Hill, including Kevin Cramer, who's like a super close Trump ally. Trump like knows his wife, like they talk on the phone, like they're very close. And he was on record saying last night, or I think maybe it was this morning, that we have the moral high ground right now on the shutdown fight, and the steeper that the administration cuts, like the more they lay off workers and the more they sort of do what they're talking about doing right now with Project 2025, we start to squander that political capital, is the verb used, squander. So there are a number of Republicans who are worried about that. I just talked to someone in the administration about this a few hours ago. They are well aware that there's a potential risk there of going too far. It's just a question, I think, of who's going to be in President Trump's ear. Like, is he going to say be cautious here, or let's go for it right now?
Yeah. You both are so brilliant. I love having you here. So no negotiations probably tomorrow, and no breakthrough. That's the conventional wisdom. And then we hit the weekend. So we're looking at what happens over the weekend, all the news coverage, and clearly Democrats are under some pressure. But as Rachel just suggested, either because of stories about paychecks and disruptions, or that they start cutting in ways that Republicans are bothered by. But my view of the latter category is, if they're doing something that's going to cause some squishiness, and queasiness on the Hill amongst Republicans, they'll just stop. They can control it. They have complete control over it. Now, this is a different topic, but it's related to what Mark just said. Do you guys know anything? It's new to me about the decision to approve a generic abortion bill. Do you guys know about that story?
Matt Bartlett, viewer in good stead here. He said that to me. Related to it.
Send it to me also. That's how I get all my news.
Yeah, it's same here, by the way. Who's the Missouri senator? Why am I blanking on his name? Josh Hawley. I think it's Hawley.
Hawley,
it's complaining. I think he's complaining about it.
But is this a new decision, the Trump administration decision, according to our friend Natalie Allison of the Washington Post, is sparking outrage from anti-abortion activists?
They're not happy. There's another abortion bill out there.
When was this decision?
Curious. Yeah,
when was the decision announced? Did it just happen today?
It happened. I first saw it this morning that he was complaining about it, and I think it happened yesterday.
Okay.
And
anyway, all right. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if it's the company or the pill. It's called Evita. I just remember that because I'm writing about Argentina a lot, so I'm thinking about Evita, the musical. And
okay, I'll stop.
You can do it.
Rachel, Rachel, are you a good singer?
No, did you just hear me?
Well, I didn't want to assume. I thought maybe you weren't giving it your all.
No. For times, right? Okay. So, and my understanding is that the manufacturer of the pill or one of the executives or whatever had said that they wanted to make abortion more readily and easily available, which is like, talk about a way to make pro-life heads explode. That's happening. But back to my original point about Project 2025 is Donald Trump is not doing everything in Project 2025. And in this case, in the abortion bill, he's doing the opposite.
Yeah. All right, let's play a little bit of sound. And again, if you want to be on the conversation, raise your hand. This is Speaker Johnson, I think on Fox Business, talking about the OMB director, Russ Vogt, and cuts. Go ahead and play number 4, please, Sam.
It is coming. Russ is the expert. He's our dear friend, and he's in an unenviable situation. It's not one that he relishes. Look, you and I and Russ and all conservatives, we've always wanted to limit the size and scope of government, but we'd rather do it through the legislative process and not under duress like this. So what Russ has to do, because he's the director of the Office of Management and Budget, he has to do what anybody in his position in this situation would do. That is to look at the balance sheet, to figure out how to make the dollars go to the services and the positions and the policies that are essential versus those that are not. Now, Russ is going to look at that through the same lens that Larry Kudlow and Mike Johnson would look at it, because he's going to say, which one of these makes sense? Which one of these follow the policy priorities of President Trump and this administration? Because that's who he works for. Now, if you had a Democrat, a big government, woke, progressive liberal sitting in that seat, they'd look at that balance sheet very differently. But Russ Vogt has been given the authority to do this, and he's been given that authority by one man. His name is Chuck Schumer. Okay? Chuck Schumer led the Democrats in the Senate to hand that pen to Russ Vogt. And I think there could be some good that comes out of it if we limit the size and scope of government, but it is not a job that he relishes.
I'll just have a 10 seconds of self-involvement. I realized just now that I was on Kudlow like a couple months ago. They never invited me back. I must have really screwed it up.
Jeez, I like to find that clip and put it on the internet.
On with Larry to go back and study what I did wrong. Anyway, several things come out of that for me, and just your read on on 3 of them real quick. Each of you, quick. Mark first. It seems to me Republicans, to say the least, have no fear of Chuck Schumer. Like, they just make Schumer a punching bag, and they feel that his being the face of this there's no diminishment in their glee on that. Am I reading that right?
I think that's correct. Yeah, I don't think they've ever really respected him. That having been said, Schumer does have some skills, but this is a tough spot for the Democratic leader to be in.
Yeah. And Rachel, you've been on this from the beginning, as you said earlier in this program, but you've been saying, like, Schumer's acting like he's got some different cards to play than he had last time.
Right.
But he doesn't seem to have any different cards, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the situation is still the same.
Cats.
And I think having...
Cat.
That's a great tabby.
I tried to do it so nobody knows.
I know, Mike came in earlier.
We welcome the cat.
Yeah, no, I think... look, like I said, the same issues he articulated very finely in March, they still apply. But and I, having covered Schumer for a really long time, I obviously can't get in his brain, but I would be willing to bet if I could that he knows this is a bad idea and is doing it because of pressure.
Do you know my grandfather was Chuck Schumer's intern?
Wow.
Just years ago. Okay, Rachel
is. I don't even know.
No. It's like a senior citizen. It's like a senior citizen. Volunteer. I shouldn't say intern. He's a volunteer.
I thought when he was a young man. I'm
no. He was a volunteer. volunteer in Schumer's office
Ah,
on Kings Highway in Brooklyn.
all
Can
right.
I just say
Rachel,
one thing about that
yeah,
Johnson clip, though? One
yeah,
other
yeah,
thing.
please, yeah, please,
It kept talking about how, vote doesn't, because Russ Vogt does not relish what he's going
yeah,
to have to do here.
right,
It's just to see Johnson, it just makes me wonder what he's saying to these guys behind the
right,
scenes. He is
100%.
trying to, push them in a different direction in terms of messaging.
Yep,
The president talking about how the shutdown could be a great thing, and Mike Lee on TV saying Russ Vogt's been dreaming about this since
right,
puberty.
right,
Like, no, Johnson is like trying to recast it. Very serious. We don't relish this
right,
role,
yeah,
but we've
yes,
got to save money. And
yeah, yeah,
and the Johnson way is obviously the smart way. If you look like you're having fun with this, again, it gets back to this notion of Republicans and potential blowback in terms of
yeah.
messaging.
So this is a little bit of a needles angels on the head of a pin. And it's color. It's a high human drama, but I think it also could affect the outcome of the shutdown. You got your Donald Trump, and you got your Mike Johnson, you got your Thune, and I'm surprised at how little reporting there is about the Thune Johnson relationship. I see very little about that, and so my question is, like, if you think about those, I'm bad at math. Six relationships, is that the number you'd have? I don't know. The relationship, there's the relationship between the three of them, and then there's each of their relationship with the other one. Rachel, is there any tension in any of those combinations, or are they pretty much all aligned at this point?
Yeah, I think Johnson and Thune earlier this year were obviously butting heads and sort of, at odds in
Over
terms
what?
over. I'm sorry, I was over the
Yeah,
whether there should be one big beautiful bill or two
sure.
big
Okay,
beautiful
yeah, that
bills.
was
I
a big
mean, that
headbutt.
was a
That
big
was a
thing,
big
and
headbutt. Yeah,
they were very polite to each other publicly, right? But they were going into President Trump's ear and in telling him the exact opposite thing. Like, you shouldn't listen to Johnson because it's got to be two, because otherwise, we're never going to get taxes done. And Johnson's in there saying, don't listen to them. I've got the slim majority. So there was tension between
yeah,
them just when they first started working together. But they're of a very similar temperament. I mean, these are guys who, more traditional minded Republicans, classic sort of conservatives, also the kind of, Republican who wants to sort of say things in a very nice way. Like, they're not out there tweeting and like throwing punches and being rude. They're very different stylistically from Donald Trump. And so I think that they have a good rapport because of that. And right now, I think that they are on the same page in terms of like, we are not negotiating right now. Now, eventually, if the conversation at some point does go to Obamacare, the healthcare tax credits, Thune does have members who want to extend that, and
right,
Johnson is not in that same position. So,
right.
but right now, I would say they're very much aligned.
Mark, this is a mood feel question also. Sometimes during government shutdowns, I find White House officials of either party to be extremely calm because there's basically nothing going on in a sense. And other times they're like on a war footing. In your dealings with administration officials since the shutdown started, is it one of those, or is it more complicated than that?
When I spoke to them today, they sounded confident. They could have been lying, but
Yeah,
their general posture was that line from Michael Corleone and Godfather 2. Here's my offer. There is no offer, right?
yeah,
Uh, Take the deal. This is where we are. I think that Trump, while maybe he doesn't relish, in Mike Johnson's words, doing this,
Yes,
that
he
is certainly an operative option for Trump to do. And let's remember, let's zoom out, as we like to say at Axios, and remember that very often the parties that, or in the past, parties that have shut down the government have not paid a price at the polls. And so the degree to which this is really going to have ramifications afterward in 2026, I'd like to see some real research on it. And therefore, I think the Trump folks know that, and they're not too worried about overplaying their hand. But then again, that's Donald Trump. He's kind of reckless in that regard and never really worried about overplaying his hand. He just kind of plays it. I do think the most of the scrutiny is going to have to remain on the Senate Democrats because uh, in the end, the Democratic Party is the institutional party, and this is hurting the institutions. And that's a long
yeah.
rant of mine I have about how Congress fails to do its job, and that empowers the president. But that'll be for another day.
Well, here's another. We'll do one more issue, and then we'll go to folks' questions. So please raise your hand if you want to be in on the conversation. Another area where Congress for decades has failed to act like a co-equal branch is on war powers. Presidents
Hold
of
on,
both.
there is no co-equal branch.
Yeah,
Congress,
it's I
there's
know.
no
So
such
I
thing. That's
call it.
one of my
I
rants.
call it so
Congress
called.
is the
So
superior branch of government.
I
Never
always say.
fucking say that again.
I always say so called.
Okay,
You're saying they're superior branch to the other two?
totally.
But they're supposed to
Kind
be.
of
They're supposed
our,
to be. But they've let the presidents of both parties just usurp and
totally
war powers most of all. So
everything,
yeah,
taxes,
yeah,
budgeting,
but
Tariffs.
war.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
insane.
Okay, so on war powers, as you know, as everybody knows, the president's been at war with the drug cartels. Not a declared war. He just acts like we're at war. So here's a couple headlines for you on this. Number 12. This is the New York Times on focused on the drug thing. Trump, quote, determined the U.S. is now in a war with drug cartels, Congress is told. A notice calls the people in the U.S. military. A notice calls the people of the U.S. military recently killed on suspicion of drug smuggling in the Caribbean Sea, quote, unlawful combatants. So here's the president just on his own with no war declaration saying we're at war and I'm prosecuting the war. And then here's another one from the Wall Street Journal on the same issue, something that's burbled around, but the Journal has it nailed a little bit more than I think has been reported elsewhere. You can put up, this is 13, please. Yeah. Lawmakers from both sides, that means Republicans and Democrats, press Pentagon on legal basis for cartel boat strikes. Defense Department General Counsel faced questions from Republicans and Democrats in a closed-door briefing. So Congress occasionally pretends it's a co-equal branch, pretends it's in charge of declaring war, and so they're asking the Pentagon General Counsel, like, on what basis are you using the U.S. military to kill civilians out there? And apparently the president says, because we're at war. But we're at a war the president's just declaring on his own. He's not going to Congress for a declaration of war, which I believe he's supposed to. So, Mark, is this something that's going to cause Republicans to be publicly upset, or is this the usual? They'll complain a little bit and go away.
I think a few of them, but the latter category, they'll complain and go away. I mean,
Yeah,
they came out with this determination. I mean, no shit, Trump thinks, I'm not saying it's right that they're essentially undeclared or enemy combatants. He did an executive order saying we're at war with them. He's done all of these executive
yeah,
orders. So then they complain, and he's like, okay, let me say the same thing, but now in a secret communique. Because in Washington, what people really like are like secret documents, even though they might just say publicly.
Even though they leak them because they got out to the journal.
right.
Like this, what are these things that people are doing like in the media? Don't get me wrong. Like they're getting a hold of Donald Trump. They're calling him on a cell phone, and Donald Trump says to people what he's saying on True Social, and they're like, "As the president exclusively told us." It's like, well, dude, he just said it on True Social. But
Yeah.
you know, if you tell someone something privately and you slap like top secret on it, it has more weight and power. But it's the same shit he's been saying for months.
Yeah. Rachel, you want to weigh in on this one?
I mean, yeah, I mean, Republicans, I would say more than a few of them have issues with this, but like, here, just look at that the Wall Street Journal story right there, right? Like there was reporting in there that there was bipartisan concern about that, and that
Yeah.
no Republicans went on record with that concern.
Bingo.
And yet they did go on record supporting
Yeah.
what he's doing. I mean,
Well,
they don't want-
Rand is against it.
okay, Rand, but
Rand is-
Rand is Rand.
Rand is Rand.
He
Rand
did
is
Rand is
Rand.
consistent, and he's
Yeah.
consistent. Right?
Folks, if you want to cover Capitol Hill, you need to learn like the argot. You need to learn how people talk up there. You got to say Rand is Rand. That's something every reporter who covers Capitol Hill will say because it has a lot of utility. All right. Once again, the markets, and this has happened historically. We talked about this the other night. The markets don't give a hoot about the shutdown. Number 9, another record high in the midst of the shutdown. Stocks close at record high as investors shake off shutdown concerns. Kind of amazing. And that's also in the midst, I say, of new tariffs the president announced this week. Lots of major new tariffs, and yet the market's at a record high. How can we explain all this? Well, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, David Bahnsen will be doing a special event for the two-way community. This will not be streamed on YouTube. If you want to get to opportunity to ask David Bahnsen, our friend and colleague who runs a personal wealth management firm, writes brilliantly about the economy in his daily Neuter Dividends Cafe, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right here tomorrow on the Two-Way Network. You'll be able to ask David questions about tariffs, about the economy, about why the stock market seems unfazed by things that you would think historically would phase. Go to two-way.tv/TBG, two-way.tv/TBG, the Bahnsen Group, to sign up both for the Dividend Cafe, the daily newsletter that I read every day, and you should too, and it's free, and for the event with David and myself. I'll ask David a few questions, but it's really for the two-way community. So join us tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, chance to ask David questions. All right. One more word for one more sponsor, and then we will get to your questions. So please, if you want to get in on the conversation, raise your hand. And that sponsor is Cozy Earth. Usually I tell you, buy the pants, I'm wearing them now. Let me tell you a little story about the Cozy Earth pants. I didn't wear them today. I was doing something and I thought, you know what, I'm going to wear my jeans. They're not made by Cozy Earth. They're normal pants. And I can tell you, I've been squirming all day. Highly uncomfortable.
I thought you were going to say that you're not wearing pants right now.
No, I'm wearing
I
the
was gonna
same
be like,
jeans.
man, that's a bit too much information.
But this goes to illustrate the thesis I've told you before. Once you buy the Cozy Earth pants, and every one of you who's bought the pants and contacted me and said, Mark, I love the pants, you say the same thing. There's no going back. You can't go back to normal pants. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all these pants that I own. 40% off your entire purchase. It's the bedding, it's the shirts, it's everything. Somebody sent me a text this morning about the bath mat. I don't even own the bath mat. They like the bath mat. CozyEarth.com. Use the code two-way. 40% off the entire site. CozyEarth.com. Use the promo code two-way for 40% off your entire purchase. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I have to say, I'd like 5 of you right now to just do it. And you don't need to tell me you're doing it, but let's get 5 purchases right now. Tell them Mark sent you. Again, it will mean nothing to them, but do it anyway. Mike Conley, welcome in. Thank you for being part of the two-way experience. Opportunity of a lifetime to question Rachel Bade and Mark Caputo. Unmute, tell us where you are, and have at it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'm over here in Deep Blue, Massachusetts, and people in my life, friends and family, most of them are Democrats, but they seem concerned about the shutdown because Democrats are not going to win anything from this. Mm-hmm. And that if it's about the ACA tax credits, why don't they just let them expire, then say, see what Republicans did to your health care? It seems really confusing and kind of performative just to be anti-Trump. And is that all it's about? Like it just seems like
the fight is the fight. Yeah. I think so.
Totally
but the reality is it's been a Democratic Party that its own base has believed is too weak. So, like, you know what? Go in there and fight Ivan Drago. We don't care if you get floored in the 3rd round or if you get carried out in a stretcher. We want to see you go in there and throw some shots. And, well, as the women used to tell the soldiers, come home with your shield or upon it.
Mark, do you have any Chitty Chitty Bang Bang metaphors you can use? That's one of my favorite films. You got anything from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
I'm going to stick with Herodotus.
Okay. Mike, that is a great question. Rachel, thoughts on what Mike asked? It's a great question.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. Number one is, yes, of course, this is all, a PR sort of play for the base, show them we're fighting, etc. They've been demanding it. But like, at the same time, you're seeing progressives online go after Jeffries and Schumer right now as they're doing exactly what the base wants. And I mentioned this on one of the previous shows this week. Somebody pretty high up, senior Democratic aide, told me in August that, look, if we do this, it's never going to be good enough for the base. They're just going to keep demanding. And you're already seeing that. You're already seeing people mocking the leaders at a time when the leaders are trying to cater to them. So it isn't going to work, number one. The other thing is, I understand this, like, the base they have its fight, fight, fight mantra, fight, fight, fight. But like, at some point you would think leaders would say to them, look, if you want to check the president, we got to win elections. Like, elections have consequences. Try to redirect that energy into fundraising, into organizing, into things that will actually make a difference. Like, you're right. It's going to be very difficult for them to win on this. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to get something. But I don't understand why they can't be honest with the base about what is realistic and what is not.
I mean, what politicians? When are they ever really honest with
Jenna,
their
like, because right, like, if they should deliver this message. If you want to check the president, we need a chamber. We need the House. Then we can investigate. Then we can do subpoenas. Not that he's going to listen to them. Let's be honest. But like, nobody's like talking like that. So anyway,
I think, well, our elections are run on anger, and this is producing a moment where everyone can be angry and can fight. And if anger is the fuel, Democrats are operating their refinery here. So it might actually perversely work, even if they lose.
Yeah.
And one last comment from Mark.
Yes, sir, Mike.
I really enjoyed this pullover, by the way.
Oh my goodness, which one did you get? Oh,
Th-
that's a, I love that one. And Mike, have you owned any Fairway and Green clothes before now?
I have
Just,
not, but I will though.
just tell everybody how high quality it is.
It is extremely high quality. I'm
Yeah.
a fan for life. I'm going to buy more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you guys, you've heard me talk about it before, Sean and Dan. Also, you've never owned golf apparel like this. It's crazy how luxurious it feels, how comfortable it is, and beautifully made. And thank you for that, Mike. Come back and model some more. Maybe
Will do.
We'll put you in the catalog. Mike, thank you. Grateful to you. Hey Noah, make sure you tell our friends at Fairway and Green. Chris
Absolutely.
Taylor. Here's Chris Taylor. Rachel, you may not know this. Chris Taylor's been voted 3 years running handsomest grandfather in Idaho.
There you go.
3 years running.
Congratulations.
Welcome in, Mr. Taylor. Yes, congratulations are due. Now I'm not sure you're going to win this year, but no one's ever won 3 years in a row. So you
got to stay young.
Can't take that away.
Records are meant to be broken.
Exactly. Tell us what's on your mind, Mr. Taylor.
Okay, so this is related to the shutdown, continuing resolution, and how it relates, I guess, to the reconciliation earlier. So what seems weird to me is you go through these reconciliations that only require 51% or whatever,
Yep.
or 51 votes. And yet that's a massive, big bill, gets a lot of Republican priorities in. That one only requires 51%. Then on a continuing resolution, it requires you to break the filibuster.
Yeah.
So that seems backwards to me.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why we have the filibuster essentially.
Right. Well, I mean, so there's two separate issues, and Rachel, who's the Norman Ornstein of her generation, is going to explain it all to you in just a moment. But
I can't talk about this.
He was the Rachel Bate of his.
Both the filibuster and reconciliation have historical origins that have some sense to them, but they've both been completely abused and bastardized and messed up. But you're right; it doesn't make sense. All I'll say is they're as messed up as they've been. They're really messed up now. They're both really messed up in terms of how the parties approach them. So, Rachel, I'll just say it's less why is there a filibuster to me, because I understand why there is a filibuster, and more why is there reconciliation, because that's the one that's more abused as compared to how the founders saw things, in my view. Professor Bade.
Oh, Jiminy Christmas. Okay, we'll start with reconciliation. So for reconciliation, if you can pass legislation that has a quote significant budget change, that can be done via 51 votes.
But Ray, I'm sorry to interrupt, but why is that? Like why does that category?
I don't even know the history of it. See, I'm not the Norm Ornstein of my generation, but I would assume it's because, good, like being smart fiscally is both sides would agree that would be a good thing, right?
They have to be able to show that they can do something, right?
Yeah.
If you allowed the filibuster to apply all the time, they would do almost nothing, even on the budget.
Well, yeah. I'm actually wondering if this is so Mark Caputo, you are saying Congress should be the primary branch.
No, it is. No,
I know, but what I'm getting at here is once you introduce, like Congress did, when they first put this Constitution together, we did not have a filibuster rule. I'm wondering if that broke.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is I don't think the filibuster is the only cause, but the fact that they have set this absurdly high threshold in the upper chamber of Congress has helped ensure that not only the Senate doesn't do as much as it could, but that the House says, well, we can't do it because the Senate won't take it. It's been one of the major factors in crippling the superior branch of government, which has in turn sort of led to the empowering of the two other branches. And now you have with the Roberts Court is getting rid of the sort of Warren Court legacy. Well, I guess it goes back to Madison versus Marbury in 1807, where the U.S. Supreme Court now is saying, look, the political branches, the legislative and the executive, when there are disputes between them, we're no longer really dealing with that. So the U.S. Supreme Court is further empowering the executive by saying, okay, this is up to Congress and the presidency. And then Congress
I
is like,
thought
well, we can't
Gorsuch
do
was trying to
anything.
dial that back.
What's that?
I thought Gorsuch was trying to dial back like the administrative state.
Well, I mean, he is trying to dial it back to a degree. They're saying, Congress, do your job.
Yeah.
And Congress is like, well, we can't do our job. And so here we are with an increasingly powerful executive. It's a totally, it's not a great situation. And I don't think it's what the founding fathers would have appreciated.
I was trying to get my dad on because he knows more about this than anybody I know. It's one of my luxuries as a child.
About
Like,
I mean, just like look at the Constitution, like
about
Supreme Court is-
reconciliation, about the origins of the filibuster. He's like
Oh,
he's like
well,
Rain Man on that stuff. I'm sorry, Rachel, go ahead. I couldn't
I
reach
was
my
gonna say
dad.
you should definitely reach it. I mean, the filibuster explanation is much easier. I mean, like the founders sort of they didn't want majority rule to be the only thing, that sort of oversaw the country, right? They wanted an opportunity, they wanted a chamber that had to deliberate more and work across the aisle. And so that is one of the reasons for like the filibuster, right?
But
Like
the filibuster's not in the Constitution, though.
no, but like the early, the early writers, the early founders, what was this?
No,
What is the
no,
phrase? The
no,
saucer?
no need to
Yeah,
speculate.
it
My-
cools,
my-
it cools
The saucer
the
no
cools
need,
the-
no
yeah.
need, no need to speculate. My dad will be here in a minute, and
There you go.
we'll settle it all.
But the
Chris,
point is,
just
you keep the
one
pendulum.
last-
If you have just
yeah,
majority
go ahead,
rule.
Chris. Go ahead, Chris, because we're waiting for my
And
dad.
that's what we should do.
Okay, so
Different
just one last
legislatures do
little-
it every year,
Go ahead, Chris.
One more thought. So obviously, I've told to you about my son Isaiah and what he's doing with his SMR startup. This is actually one of those cases where historically, as a conservative, I've kind of like, who cares if the government shuts down for a bit? Now that he has to use the federal government to regulate what he's doing, and he's trying to turn on his first reactor by 4th of July this coming year. We need we need those regulators working to go through all this.
So Chris Taylor,
hoops.
all of a sudden, you're a big government guy.
I love the government.
Yeah, you need the government. Is he frozen now, or he's just
No, so
worried?
they're still that. I mean, they were just in let's see, Idaho, actually, down in like the nuclear regulators in southern Idaho. They just went through a large process getting their safety requirements approved like 2 weeks ago. So they snuck through the back door for this
Yeah.
round, and now hopefully it opens up before they have to go through their next round.
Yeah. All right, Chris, stay with us just because my dad, in theory, will be here soon. I don't know how long it takes the man to dial into a Zoom, but he'll explain it all. You'll be amazed and impressed. All right, while we wait for my dad, let's go to Doug. Doug Carey, welcome in. Tell folks that don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Rachel and for Mark.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, Mark, and Rachel. I'm in Montreal, but I'm a Florida resident, actually heading down there in a few days, but I spend summers in Montreal. I want to talk about illegal aliens. Republicans have been saying all day that ACA covers illegal aliens. The Democrats say no. Best I can tell, illegal aliens can't be covered under ACA. Certain people who are here lawfully but don't have permanent resident status, like DACA recipients or asylum seekers, can be covered. Can we get some fact checking? Is that correct, or are there?
Yeah. So this is super complicated, and I think I now understand it, but it could take the whole rest of the show. So, Mark or Rachel, do you want to explain it in one paragraph what the truth is? The answer is both sides are not
Hard to
telling
do
the
that
full
in-
truth.
yeah.
Both sides are not telling the full truth. But either one of you want to take a stab at it, and then we'll go back to the
I
filibuster.
can if you don't, Rachel.
Go for it, Mark.
The Medicaid, by and large, does not go to illegal immigrants. However, a number of states have, like California, notably, blue states, were offering those in a limited form. And the One Big Beautiful Bill explicitly outlawed any federal funds going to that. And the Democrats' proposal for this continuing resolution was to eliminate that language that banned the Medicaid money from going there. Now, so it's a question, it's like, well, if they're eliminating the ban, are they reinstating it? So there's a little bit of truth there.
Yeah.
By and large, not a lot of illegal immigrants got Medicaid beforehand. So they still do get some services, because if you show up at an emergency room in the United States, they don't ask your immigration status, they patch you up. So that still is sort of out there. It is an open question as to why Democrats were not more explicit, saying we will vote for a continuing resolution if you only address the issue of premium supports for ACA plans. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
So here.
Yeah, brilliant. So the Republicans are overstating the case, but their charge is technically true,
That's
and
some
that
truth. It's
has
truthy.
some truth to it. So that's the thing. Doug, thank you. I want to get back to the other issue. Dad, just so you guys know, my dad doesn't watch all my shows because I have too many. He couldn't be expected to
No
build
man
his life
can.
around them. Yeah. Dad, thanks for joining.
Happy to be here.
You missed the earlier conversation, but just as briefly as you can, explain to everybody, why does the filibuster exist? When did it start? Why does it exist?
It existed, as far as I can tell, from the beginning of the Congress. It's in fact moved in the other direction. It used to be 75 votes. I think at one point there was no provision for stopping debate. You had to get unanimous consent if somebody objected. And then it moved to what it now is, requiring the 60 votes. And then starting with Senator Reid, the Democrats began to peel away things that could be covered by the filibuster. Reid was warned when he started that the end would be the abolishment of the filibuster, and I think that's clearly where we're going. Each time one
They
party
chipped
or the
away.
other eliminates it for one particular thing, for nominations, and then of course the budget resolution was a big step forward for people against the filibuster.
Yeah, so
Because
you're talking about reconciliation now, right? So that's the other thing.
right.
When did that start, and why did that start, and why does that exist?
It existed because Congress had no mechanism for balancing the budget. It did a separate set of appropriations, which it passed 15 or 12 separate bills one at a time. Nobody even added them up to know how much we was spending, let alone comparing it to how much we were going to raise in taxes, which was voted by another committee. And so the Congress reached a consensus. It was,
So
I
this is
think,
in the 70s, right?
yeah, it's in, and uh, Senator Muskie was the leader of the efforts to do this, and got into a big fight in which at one point he got so mad that he ripped the telephone literally out of the wall in days when telephones had cords and threw it across the room, screaming at Bert. But the idea was that Congress had a responsibility to balance the budget. And the only way to balance the budget was to ask how much were you going to spend and how much were you going to tax, and do it in one bill. And that bill was supposed to then, give assignments to the committees to
So
come up.
so separate than the normal budgeting process of appropriators and budgeters. It's all together. But
Well, there
why would
weren't budgeters. There were appropriators and tax
tax
and
right
tax.
ways right? So why when they created it did they exempt it from the filibuster?
Well, because they decided if it wasn't exempted from filibuster, it would always be filibustered and would not be used, and that it was the beginning of the group in the Congress, maybe the high point of it, saying, we can accept the filibuster for policy issues of great consciousness. If people feel we have to have discrimination in the country, so we need to be able to filibuster, but we can't run the normal business of the country requiring 60 votes. And therefore, the budget resolution is actually, if it worked, it meant to be really a serious step forward for Congress taking responsibility for a balanced budget.
And the so-called Byrd rule, which requires germaneness to the budgeting process, that was to keep it from being an unfilibusterable vehicle for other things.
What happened was people started putting everything on the resolution, and Byrd said, no, well, it wasn't as explicit as it should have been, but said Congress' intention was only to eliminate the filibuster for what was necessary to accomplish the purpose of the budget resolution. So it had to be related to raising money or spending money, and that's now the rule. And then, you get things at the margin where the parliamentarian has a great voice. But one of these days, everybody expects, I think, for some party who really wants to do something to just say the Byrd rule was something made up by Byrd and endorsed by the parliamentarian of the day, and it will go too.
Right. All right. Last question for me, and then if Rachel and Mark have any questions for you, and otherwise we'll let you go back to doing whatever it is you were doing. How is it that you know all this?
because I worked for many years as the chief lobbyist for the American Civil Liberties Union, uh, a total of 10 or 12 years, and I discovered that people didn't pay attention to the rules, and that if you know the rules, uh, you could really make a difference. And it got to the point where I was known as, other than the parliamentarian, one of the few people on the Hill who understood the rules. So Senator Kennedy used to secretly send his staff to see me to ask how they could deal with some problem given the Senate rules.
Rachel, he would have been a great
That's
source
great.
for you back in the day.
Love that.
Either of you have any questions, feel free to ask him. If you don't, we'll let him go back to doing whatever it is he was doing.
Thank you for jumping on.
Dad, thank you for joining and explaining that. I knew you'd
My
know.
pleasure.
Grateful to you. You're welcome to stick around, but you're not that interested in the show. All right, Andre, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Rachel and for Mark.
Hi, I'm in New York City. I wanted to follow up on that last conversation about what's happening with this shutdown with regards to illegal immigrants. Obviously, JD Vance went off on a tangent yesterday where he expanded the definition of who these illegals are. And I've been trying to tell people that since the humanitarian parole was granted to the Ukrainians in 200,000, obviously big Ukraine guy right now. So we have different programs for different refugees. We understand this. We have humanitarian parole. We have TPS. We have numerous asylee statuses. And the reason I'm bringing this up is twofold. One, the change of language by JD Vance goes along in terms of why they're denying this healthcare, or why they're fighting over this healthcare, is that he's expressly pointed out that he does not want these asylees or humanitarian parole or others not to achieve this. So that's one thing for us to understand. My point here is, can I bring up a case of a woman who was killed in North Carolina that was propagated all across the internet and in the news, who was here on humanitarian parole? If the knife had not sufficiently plunged in enough to kill Irina Zarutska, would she be eligible for health care? And is that something that the Republicans care about?
That is a brilliant question. Mark or Rachel? Either you have thoughts on that?
I would think yes in both cases. But I think your point stands. It's a good question for Vance, actually.
It is a great question for Vance.
I was going to say, didn't somebody ask Caroline Levitt this today?
Was she asked it today?
She was
the Zarutska question?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't about Zarutska specifically. It was, what should ER practitioners allow someone?
And she said, not for me to say.
She said it's not for me to say.
Right.
And kicked to politicians and doctors. I can't remember who she kicked to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's.
I kick it to you guys to ask that question.
Yeah, no, it's a great one.
DC.
I was going to say,
when I got a chance.
I could be wrong about this, but I thought, and this is this whole thing about, where are Democrats pushing for, something that would give illegal or undocumented immigrants more healthcare, blah, blah, blah. One of the pieces I read suggested that the Republican bill didn't completely get rid of an undocumented immigrant's ability to show up at a hospital and be saved if they were
correct. Yeah, no, that's still
it just limited it in some fashion, and that the push from the Democrats with this new proposal would have gotten rid of some of those limitations. But again, I'll be honest, I haven't read the nuances of the bill.
I believe it had to do with reconciliation. There was something with the big, beautiful bill that they could do with the 51% majority, but they had to. In any case, they're repeating the rhetoric they had for the big, beautiful bill, where they said, well, we're going to cut off these I forget the word for the subsidies for hospitals, but they ended up doing it halfway, like you just mentioned, Rachel.
Yeah, super interesting, and let's try to figure out a way to make that happen. Thank you, sir. All right,
just this call.
Okay, Mark takes that call. Rachel, what do you expect tomorrow? Anything on the shutdown, or are we basically just treading water till Monday?
I feel like we're going to tread water until Monday.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a vote. I think it's going to happen early in the afternoon. I obviously, a lot of Republicans will be looking to see if any more moderate Democrats break.
Can I get you later tonight?
But I feel like I guess I would expect a lot of these moderate Dems are probably going to want a little bit of cover, so they'll probably all jump together, Mark, if they're going to do that. But I just don't expect it to
Yeah.
happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree with you. All right. Grateful to you both. Love having you on. Love having you on together, and hope you'll come back regularly whenever you want. Really. Thank you both.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you. All right, a few more things to tell you about before we end. First of all, 7 o'clock tonight on the Moynihan Report, Michael Moynihan here on Two Way. His guest, Richard Frank, a military historian, join Michael again, 7 o'clock Eastern. On YouTube now and on as a podcast, my newest episode of Next Up. And I interviewed I talked to 3 college students, all of whom are active in their local campus Turning Point organization, all of whom are conservatives who from high school forward have faced criticism and death threats and brickbats for being conservative, and all of whom were followers and admirers of Charlie Kirk. And we talked about why they like Charlie Kirk so much, what their hopes for Turning Point are now, how he impacted their lives. 2 of them met him. And I want to show you a soundbite from one of them. I'm not sure which one it is. I apologize in advance. But here's a little bit of part of my conversation with these 3 incredibly impressive young people.
I think something exceedingly special about Charlie was his capacity for patience. No, never did he sit at one of those prove me wrong tables and yell at people or speak over them or get angry or cuss. He sat back and he took the blows and he took the incompetence and the ridiculousness, and he came back with facts and he came back with statistics, and his capacity to just sit there and listen was remarkable. And then if someone threw an insult at him or called him a Nazi or a racist or any other ridiculous name, he just said, okay, God bless you. Thank you. Have a great day. And that to me is special about Charlie.
So that is Sidonia Seco of Millersville University. There you see in the middle, Theo Graybill of University of Kansas, and then on the end, Emma Arns, University of Tennessee. I was so eager to hear from young people in a long form conversation, and their poise and their optimism and their capacity to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk is quite something. I found the whole thing really educational. If you love Charlie Kirk and knew all about him and you want to hear those voices of young people to kind of flesh out the conception, I recommend it to you. And if you know nothing about Charlie Kirk and you're still confused, why are people on the right so crushed by his assassination? Why do they talk about him in such glowing terms? I recommend it to you. It's just a great education. These 3 young folks and their voices are quite something, and it's available now on YouTube, on Next Up Halperin, or as a podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. So I recommend that to you. Don't forget, tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, David Bonson and I will be doing a private two-way just for a two-way community, not on YouTube. So join us then. You can register now. Go to twoway.tv/TPG, the TBG, the Bonson Group, to sign up to be part of that conversation, to be able to ask David questions about tariffs and the economy and what the shutdown might mean for the economy and why the markets continue to do so well. And then, of course, 9 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, Sean Dan and I will be here. It's Friday, so we'll have winners and losers of the week and what to look for this weekend, as well as full coverage of overnight developments on the morning meeting. And then finally, I'll be back in 23 hours for one last episode of this program this week. So grateful to everybody for their participation. Rachel and Mark and my dad, and to all of you who asked questions, and all of you who are here on all the platforms to watch. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.